Most men are blind. They think she's happy, loyal, and invested. But what they don't see is that she may already be somewhere else, mentally, emotionally. Even without leaving the room, you're watching this video because you want to know the truth, the raw, uncomfortable truth that nobody else is telling you. And I promise, by the end of this video, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt her pulling away, subtly, without saying a word? Maybe she's calm, maybe she's quiet, maybe she says something as innocent as, "I don't want to argue." And you think everything is fine. But that is the exact moment the danger begins. That is the moment she is testing you. That is the moment she is starting to drift emotionally. And most men never notice until it's too late. I'm going to show you the invisible signs, the words, the behaviors, and the mistakes that make men completely blind to the reality of what's happening. I'm going to explain why chasing her, begging for attention, and over-explaining will destroy your value faster than you can imagine. And I'm going to teach you the emotional strategies that make a woman respect, desire, and even chase a man the moment he stands firm in his value. This is not about manipulation. This is about awareness. This is about power. This is about seeing the truth no one else dares to tell you. By the end of this video, you will have the tools to read her mind, understand her heart, and protect your energy, and the knowledge to act before it's too late. So stay with me. Watch every word, because the truth you're about to learn will shock you, change your perspective, and give you power over a situation most men surrender to blindly. Most men believe that losing a woman is about the surface things. They think if they look better, earn more, or act more charming, they can hold on to her. That is the story they tell themselves to feel safe. But the truth, the brutal truth, is far deeper than appearances, bank accounts, or even effort. Most men don't realize that the moment she starts drifting emotionally, nothing on the surface can bring her back. Because by the time you notice a shift, she has already started exiting your world. Not physically, not with a dramatic breakup, but silently, mentally, and emotionally. A woman's love is anchored in attention, understanding, and emotional connection. When those elements are absent, she does not need a reason to leave. She does not need to confront you. She does not need to announce her feelings. She simply begins to disconnect. And the terrifying part for most men is that you will not recognize it until it is almost too late. You will see her physically present, her words polite, her tone calm, and you will think everything is fine. But the mind and heart are not as easy to see as the eyes or the body. Her mind may be wandering somewhere else, and her heart may be slowly packing away the moments that once belonged to you. Think about it. When she is truly invested in you, when she truly cares, she will argue, she will complain, she will express frustration, she will make herself emotionally available, even if it hurts her. And yes, sometimes that arguing feels exhausting to men, but it is a signal of life in the relationship. It is her heartbeat in your shared space. When she stops arguing, when she stops expressing dissatisfaction, she is no longer trying to bring the relationship back to life. She is conserving her energy for something else, something, or someone else who is filling the space you are failing to occupy emotionally. Men often dismiss this because they equate peace with love. They hear her calm voice, her polite words, her "I don't want to argue," and they think she is becoming mature, reasonable, or peaceful. They see harmony and assume connection, but what they fail to see is that emotional withdrawal looks like calmness. Detachment masquerades as tranquility. Silence becomes a signal not of resolution, but of resignation. The emotional world of a woman is subtle, layered, and deeply intelligent. She does not need to shout to communicate disinterest. She does not need to make noise to declare distance. She simply shifts her attention, and that shift is enough. And this is where most men lose the plot entirely. They focus on visible signs. She is still smiling at you. She still texts you. She still shares space. And in that focus, they miss the essence of her internal departure. Emotional withdrawal is not about absence. It is about presence without engagement. It is about being there, but no longer being connected. She may listen to your words, but her mind may no longer be listening. She may touch, hug, or share a smile, but her heart may no longer beat in rhythm with yours. The presence becomes a shadow of connection, and that shadow is often more deceptive than outright departure, because it lulls men into a false sense of security. The first step to recognizing this truth is understanding that love is not static. It is not a trophy you can earn once and keep forever. It is a living process that requires consistent emotional investment. If you fail to nourish that investment, if you fail to meet her mind, her heart, and her soul with the attention and understanding she requires, the love that seems permanent today may quietly evaporate tomorrow. And it does not leave a mess. It leaves subtle gaps in conversation, small silences, a reduction in emotional intensity. Most men dismiss these signals as trivia, but they are the precursors to emotional departure. They are the footprints she leaves while slowly stepping out of the life you thought was secure. Men also underestimate the importance of emotional resonance. Women respond to the energy a man emits, the attention he gives, the emotional stability he holds, the presence he maintains. If a man becomes predictable, weak, or emotionally unavailable, he stops resonating in her mind and heart. She does not leave because she hates him. She leaves because she no longer feels alive with him. She leaves because the emotional vibration she once associated with excitement, security, and attraction has diminished. And once that vibration diminishes, no amount of surface level charm, money, or gifts can reignite it. She may stay physically, but she is already elsewhere mentally, waiting for someone who matches her emotional wavelength. It is important to understand the difference between visible actions and invisible intentions. A woman may continue to do all the things you expect. She may smile, she may respond to messages, she may even engage in conversation. But if her intentions are no longer aligned with yours, the relationship is already compromised. Emotional presence is not measured by proximity or routine. It is measured by engagement, by energy, by the way she invests herself in the shared world. And once that investment ceases, the relationship becomes a shadow play. You see motion, but the substance is gone. You hear words, but the meaning has left. And this is why emotional departure is so dangerous. It is silent, subtle, and easily ignored, yet it is the ultimate form of detachment. Another critical aspect to realize is that men often mistake anger or frustration for a threat, but they fail to recognize silence and calm as the true danger. When she is invested, she communicates dissatisfaction because she still believes in resolution. When she is no longer invested, she communicates calm because she has already moved on emotionally. The anger that most men fear is actually a sign of attachment. The calmness they desire is often a sign of departure. Understanding this distinction is essential for any man who wants to remain connected with the woman he values. The lesson here is not about blame. It is about awareness. Men cannot control the hearts of women, nor should they try, but they can control their own awareness, their own energy, and their own presence. Recognizing the subtle signs of emotional withdrawal, understanding the significance of calm over conflict, and responding with self-respect rather than panic are the keys to maintaining connection, or at the very least, preserving dignity in the process. Because once emotional detachment begins, Everything that follows, physical distance, the search for another man, eventual heartbreak, is only a matter of time. Awareness is your only weapon. So I leave you with this truth. Losing a woman is rarely about the things you see. It is about the things you don't see. It is about the spaces in her mind where your presence has faded, the silences where your words no longer reach, the calmness where your absence has been acknowledged. If you fail to notice the emotional shifts, you will wake up one day shocked, confused, and broken. But if you see them, if you truly understand them, you gain power. Power to act, to adjust, and to command respect. And even if the outcome is not what you hoped for, you walk forward without illusion, without weakness, and without regret. The moment you understand that love is emotional before it is physical, that calm can be a warning, and that silence can be louder than arguments. You will see the world differently. You will see women differently. And you will see yourself differently. Because awareness is the first step toward power, and power is the only thing that ensures you are never blindsided again. So pay attention to the invisible. Listen beyond the words. See beyond the surface. And remember, losing a woman is rarely about her leaving. It is about you failing to notice she was already gone. There are moments in relationships when a woman's words carry a weight that most men completely miss. These words are subtle, quiet, almost innocent, but they are more powerful than arguments, more telling than tears, and more dangerous than silence. One phrase in particular, just 5 words, has the power to reveal something most men refuse to see. I don't want to argue. On the surface, it sounds harmless, even peaceful. On the surface, it looks like maturity, compromise, a desire for calm. But the truth, the brutal, unspoken truth, is far more profound. Those words are often the emotional exit sign. They are a warning, a signal, a line that tells you the space you once held in her heart is already slipping away. When a woman says, I don't want to argue, she is no longer trying to fix things with you. She is no longer trying to bring life back to the relationship. This is not about avoiding conflict or seeking harmony. This is about detachment. This is about conserving emotional energy for something or someone else. Because love, when it is alive, requires effort from both sides. It demands attention, engagement, energy, and vulnerability. When a woman still cares, she communicates dissatisfaction. She argues, she complains, she expresses frustration, not to hurt you, not to annoy you, but because she wants resolution. She wants change. She wants to preserve what she still values. But the moment she stops arguing, you are witnessing the first real sign of departure. Calmness is not always peace. Politeness is not always kindness. Silence is not always comfort. They are often signs that she has stopped investing herself in you emotionally. And this is the moment most men fail spectacularly. They hear the words and think, she's being reasonable. She's being mature. She's calming down. No, she is emotionally checking out. She is no longer fighting for you, because she already knows, deep down, that her fight may be better spent elsewhere. It's crucial to understand that women do not leap into relationships with another man immediately. Emotional departure comes first. A woman does not give her heart to someone else in a physical sense without preparing herself mentally. Her attention, her thoughts, her energy start shifting long before the body does. When she says, I don't want to argue, she is planting the first seeds of that shift. She is testing the boundaries. She is creating distance emotionally. And if a man is not aware, he will mistake this distance for peace or respect. He will continue as if nothing has changed while she silently begins to carve a space in her heart for someone else who listens, who engages, who understands her in ways he no longer does. This is where perception fails most men. They measure loyalty and attachment by visible signs. She smiles, she talks, she touches, she shares time. But emotional presence is not measured by the physical. It is measured by engagement and energy. If she is present physically but absent emotionally, she is already moving on. Her calm words, her avoidance of conflict, are not signs of contentment. They are signs of emotional withdrawal. Men often underestimate the intelligence and subtlety of women in these moments. She does not need to shout. She does not need to accuse. She does not need to create drama. Her emotions are strategic, and they communicate more in their absence than in their presence. When a woman truly invests in a relationship, she argues because she cares. She expresses disagreement because she wants resolution. She fights because she believes change is possible and that the relationship is worth it. The argument, the complaint, the frustration is her heartbeat in your shared space. But when she says, "I don't want to argue," that heartbeat is slowing. It is fading. And men who are not attuned to emotional intelligence often misinterpret this fading as maturity, misunderstanding, or even love. They believe that peace is always a positive sign, when in reality, peace without engagement is a funeral for connection. Most men are terrified of anger. They run from arguments, misunderstand conflict, and avoid confrontation at all costs. But here is a paradox most will never understand. When a woman argues, it is a sign of attachment. When she is angry, it is proof she is still emotionally present. Her frustration is a declaration of care. Her complaints are calls to action, invitations to understand, to empathize, to rise to the level of emotional presence she expects from you. The absence of that energy, the calm avoidance of conflict, is the true danger. Silence, calmness, and withdrawal are far more destructive than anger or confrontation because they do not provoke an immediate response. They erode subtly, invisibly, and with precision. And make no mistake, she does not say these words out of hate or malice. She does not aim to punish. She says them because her emotional reserves are limited, and she has already started investing those reserves elsewhere. Perhaps it is someone who validates her, who listens, who makes her feel understood. Perhaps it is someone who matches her energy, her emotional intelligence, her needs in ways you no longer do. And the terrifying part is that this investment often begins long before she acts. The 5 words, "I don't want to argue," are the moment she tests the boundaries. They are the first warning, the quiet declaration that her heart is no longer fully yours. This is why awareness is everything. Men who are blind to these subtleties often find themselves shocked when the woman they thought was loyal, invested, and committed suddenly appears to drift. They misread calmness as peace. They misread politeness as contentment. They fail to see the invisible signs of emotional departure. And by the time the physical consequences appear, it is often too late. She has already mentally prepared herself, and another man, unseen yet emotionally present, has already begun to occupy the space you neglected. Understanding this requires a fundamental shift in perception. Men must learn to read the emotional climate of a relationship, not just the physical or verbal cues. They must learn that the absence of argument does not indicate harmony. They must understand that emotional investment is measured by energy, attention, and engagement, not by proximity or routine. And most importantly, they must learn that these 5 words are a signal to act, a signal to reflect, and a signal to preserve one's self, respect, dignity, and awareness before it is too late. Because here is the final truth: the moment she says, "I don't want to argue," is not the moment for panic. It is the moment for clarity, awareness, and action. It is the moment to recognize that love is emotional before it is physical. It is the moment to acknowledge that calmness can be a warning, That silence can be a declaration, and that emotional withdrawal is the precursor to physical departure. If a man sees this, understands this, and responds with intelligence, he gains the power to preserve connection, or at least preserve himself. If he ignores it, he risks waking up one day shocked, confused, and heartbroken, realizing that the woman he loved emotionally, mentally, and spiritually had already begun moving on. So remember this, those 5 words are never just words. They are a signal. They are a warning. They are a truth most men will never hear until it is too late. And the difference between being blindsided and being aware lies in the understanding of this moment. The moment she says, "I don't want to argue," she is not becoming peaceful. She is becoming detached. She is not losing anger. She is losing attachment. She is not inviting calm. She is declaring distance. And when you understand this, when you truly grasp this, you gain more than insight, you gain power. Power to see clearly, power to act wisely, and power to respect yourself enough not to beg for attention that is no longer yours. Because awareness is the only weapon against emotional disappearance, and understanding the subtle language of withdrawal is the only way to protect your heart, your dignity, and your future. Pay attention. Listen beyond the surface. Read the invisible, and never forget calm words can carry the loudest truth. Understanding a woman's emotional world is not optional if you want to maintain a relationship. Most men think loyalty is measured by physical presence or visible effort. They think as long as she is with them, as long as she smiles or speaks, they are safe. But that is a dangerous illusion. A woman's emotional investment is invisible, subtle, and far more powerful than anything you can see. She can be physically present yet emotionally absent. She can be in the same room, yet her mind and heart can be somewhere else entirely. And the moment her emotional attention shifts, the relationship begins a slow, quiet collapse. Emotional departure always comes first. Women rarely act without thought. They rarely jump from one emotional world to another in a single instant. There is a progression, a subtle preparation that most men never notice until it's too late. She begins by mentally checking out. Her attention drifts to someone else, someone who listens, someone who understands, someone who makes her feel valued. And that mental investment is far more telling than anything you can observe physically. She may smile at you. She may engage in conversation. She may continue to fulfill her routine obligations, but her mind is no longer anchored to you. That is the invisible, dangerous shift that most men ignore. The tragedy is that men often mistake these signs. They hear her calmness and think she is being reasonable. They see her politeness and think she is mature. They notice her smiles and think everything is fine. But all of these visible signs are deceptive when they are divorced from emotional engagement. Emotional loyalty is not measured by actions alone. It is read by where her thoughts, energy, and heart truly reside. And when a woman begins to emotionally invest elsewhere, those signs you depend on become illusions. You see motion, but the substance is gone. You hear words, but they carry no attachment. It is essential to understand why emotional investment matters so much. Women respond first to emotional resonance. Physical attraction, money, or status are secondary if the emotional connection is absent. A woman wants to feel understood, appreciated, and heard. She wants someone who resonates with her mind and heart. If she stops receiving that resonance from you, her attention naturally begins to drift. She starts to fill the void with someone else who can provide what you no longer do. And here is the shocking part: this shift can begin quietly, almost imperceptibly. She may not even consciously recognize it at first, but the emotional drift is real. It is deliberate. It is inevitable if the needs of the heart are ignored. Men often underestimate the power of emotional presence. They believe that time together is enough, that routine interactions are sufficient, that simple proximity ensures loyalty. But emotional connection is no tea about being seen. It is about being felt. It is about attention, energy, understanding, and validation. A woman who is emotionally present invests all of these in the relationship. A woman who is emotionally leaving withdraws them. She may smile, she may nod, she may talk politely, but the energy is gone, and with it, the true bond. That is the moment another man, someone who can match her energy and understand her emotional world, becomes more than just a possibility. He becomes a presence in the gaps you left. Emotional cheating, the kind most men never recognize, happens long before physical interaction occurs. It begins in the mind and heart. It is carried out through thoughts, subtle attention, and conversations that deepen her connection with someone who understands her in ways you no longer do. And it is far more dangerous than visible betrayal because it leaves no obvious sign. You may think the relationship is safe because there is no physical evidence, no confrontation, no drama. But the truth is, emotional cheating erodes loyalty silently, invisibly, and effectively. By the time physical signs appear, the emotional damage is already complete. What most men fail to grasp is the sequence of this departure. When a woman stops arguing, stops expressing frustration, and begins withdrawing emotionally, it is not a lack of care, it is the start of mental detachment. She is mentally preparing herself for a new emotional home. She is testing the boundaries. She is seeing how much she can invest elsewhere without consequence. And she is observing your reaction, or lack thereof. If you fail to notice, fail to respond with awareness, you are silently losing the relationship without realizing it. The physical presence remains, but the emotional anchor has been lifted. And once the anchor is gone, no amount of chasing, gifts, or effort can restore it fully. Men must also understand the psychology behind this shift. A woman invests emotionally when she feels valued, understood, and safe. She withdraws emotionally when she perceives that those needs are unmet, neglected, or ignored. It is not about punishment. It is not about revenge. It is about survival. The human heart does not waste energy where it is not appreciated. And once her attention begins to shift, she becomes highly perceptive to energy elsewhere. The moment she experiences validation, understanding, or emotional resonance from another source, the mind naturally begins to invest there. This is not disloyalty in the traditional sense. It is the natural law of emotional alignment. The danger for men is that this shift is invisible. There are no loud warnings, no clear confrontations, no dramatic gestures. The words may remain, the smiles may continue, the routines may persist, but the heart, the mind, and the energy, the essential parts of connection, are no longer present. Emotional absence is subtle. It is quiet. It is patient. And it is fatal if ignored. Most men will realize this only when the loss becomes undeniable, when the mental and emotional space she occupies is filled by someone else, and when the physical departure becomes a formality rather than a surprise. Understanding this dynamic requires emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and observation. You must learn to read beyond words and actions. You must learn to measure loyalty by presence of mind and heart, not by presence of body. You must recognize that a woman's attention is finite, that her energy is valuable, and that the moment it starts to drift is the moment the relationship is most at risk. And most importantly, you must understand that these signs are not punishments, but truths. They are signals, warnings, and opportunities to act wisely or to preserve dignity. The power of this insight is immense. A man who understands that emotional departure precedes physical departure gains the ability to notice shifts before it is too late. He can adjust his energy, refocus attention, and either rekindle the connection or walk away with respect intact. A man who ignores it is destined to be blindsided, shocked, and heartbroken, questioning how everything seemed fine until one day it was gone. Awareness is the difference between being a passive victim of circumstances and being an active participant in your emotional world. So remember, this emotional investment is invisible, subtle, and more telling than any words or actions. When her attention, energy, and heart begin to shift elsewhere, it is the first step toward a relationship that is no longer fully yours. Emotional cheating is not a sudden leap, it is a gradual migration. And the sooner you understand this, the sooner you can either restore the balance or protect yourself from loss. Physical presence does not equal loyalty. Smiles do not equal attachment. Words do not equal commitment. True connection lives in the mind, heart, and emotional energy, and when that leaves, everything else is just a shadow of what once was. Pay attention to the invisible, watch the subtle shifts, listen to the emotions that are no longer expressed. And remember, a relationship is never safe until emotional investment is secured. Awareness is your only defense, your only power, and your only chance to maintain respect, dignity, and connection. Because when a woman's mind drifts before her body, when her heart begins investing elsewhere, the physical signs will always come too late. And by then, the truth will be undeniable. The relationship was lost silently, mentally, and emotionally long before you realized it. Men often make the same mistake over and over again, and it is the one mistake that silently destroys every chance of connection they chase. They panic, they beg, they over-explain. The moment a woman begins to emotionally withdraw, the first instinct for most men is to scramble, to text more, call more, apologize more, give everything in the hope that she will return. But chasing does not pull a woman in closer. Chasing pushes her further away. Chasing reveals weakness. Chasing signals desperation. And desperation is the single most powerful magnet for emotional departure. Think about it. A woman does not leave a man she respects. She does not emotionally drift from a man who holds his value. She does not seek someone else when she still feels the magnetic pull of confidence, strength, and presence. What men fail to realize is that women are naturally attuned to energy. They sense weakness, uncertainty, and fear. And when they detect it, the mind begins to question attraction. The heart begins to seek security elsewhere. A man chasing does not look strong, capable, or desirable. He looks replaceable. He looks like someone who tolerates emotional withdrawal instead of addressing it with awareness and self-respect. This is where most men fall into the trap of false hope. They see her smiles, her texts, her polite words, and they think she is still invested. They misinterpret calmness for attention. They misread silence for consideration. But chasing behavior is like waving a flag that says, "I am insecure. I will tolerate your absence. I fear losing you more than I value myself." And women instinctively feel this. Emotional intelligence tells them that the man is no longer a source of strength. His value has diminished, and once value diminishes, so does attraction. The tragedy is that chasing never works. The more a man chases, the more she distances herself emotionally. It is a simple psychological law. Attention, validation, and energy must be earned, not begged for. A woman wants a man who can hold his presence, who can maintain his dignity, and who does not crumble when faced with subtle withdrawal. She does not want someone who mirrors her emotional state. She wants someone who anchors it. The more a man chases, the more she unconsciously confirms that her emotional exit is correct. She begins to feel freer, lighter, and more justified in looking elsewhere. Here is the brutal truth: when a woman starts withdrawing, your emotional response is more important than hers. Her calmness, her silence, her polite avoidance. These are all signals of an imbalance of energy. And if you respond by giving more, begging, or trying to win her back through effort alone, you are only amplifying the imbalance. You are showing her that she controls your emotions, that a withdrawal dictates your actions, and that your value is conditional on her attention. Women instinctively know this. And when she realizes she can pull your attention by withdrawing, she begins to test boundaries. She begins to invest emotionally in someone else who does not react like this. This is why self-control, emotional strength, and strategic silence are the weapons most men never learn to wield. When a woman withdraws, the strongest response is not panic, not pleading, not chasing. It is awareness combined with dignity. It is remaining grounded in your value. It is showing her, without words, that her withdrawal cannot shake your core. And paradoxically, this is the behavior that reignites attraction. The woman who thought she could pull you away begins to feel the power of your presence, the magnetic strength of your emotional independence. She begins to question the emotional gap she created. She begins to feel the void of your absence, and in that void lies respect, desire, and renewed attention. Chasing behavior is also a trap because it feeds into patterns of codependency. Men who chase become predictable. They become weak. They lose the ability to hold boundaries. They prioritize her attention above their self-respect, and the result is always the same: emotional disengagement accelerates. What could have been stopped with calm awareness now becomes inevitable. She begins to compare your chasing behavior with the presence of another man who is stable, unshaken, and aligned with his own value. She begins to see the contrast, and contrast drives emotional migration more than arguments, fights, or dissatisfaction ever could. This is why men must understand the power of emotional neutrality. Emotional neutrality is not indifference. It is not coldness. It is not a lack of love. It is a demonstration of strength. It is showing that your emotional state is rooted in yourself, not in her reactions. When a woman withdraws, a man who maintains his calm, who holds his boundaries, who does not chase, automatically elevates his presence. He becomes the man she cannot ignore. She senses that his value is constant, not contingent on her attention. She begins to respect him again, not because he begged for it, but because he never gave up his dignity. Chasing also distorts perception. A man who chases constantly interprets her actions through fear, not understanding. Every text becomes a test, every delay a rejection, every calm response a disaster. He becomes reactive instead of proactive. He loses sight of the subtle language of emotional withdrawal because he is focused on survival rather than awareness. And in doing so, he accelerates the very outcome he fears most. By chasing, he validates her emotional drift. He confirms that she is free to leave and he will still respond. And once this dynamic sets in, emotional departure becomes unstoppable. The psychology behind this is simple but powerful. Women are drawn to men who embody stability, emotional intelligence, and self-respect. They are repelled by men who exhibit neediness, desperation, and reactive energy. Chasing is the ultimate display of desperation. It signals that your value is conditional on her attention, and conditional value is never respected. Once she realizes this, she naturally shifts her investment to someone who embodies the opposite, someone unshakable, confident, and grounded. That is the man who becomes emotionally irreplaceable, and chasing ensures you are not him. The lesson is clear: stop chasing, stop over-explaining, stop panicking, stop begging. These behaviors do not reclaim her attention, they accelerate its loss. The moment she begins to withdraw, the strongest, most effective response is self-control, emotional awareness, and boundary setting. Observe without reacting. Maintain your value without compromise. Let her realize that your attention, respect, and presence are earned, not taken for granted. When you act from this position, attraction does not die, it grows, curiosity, respect, and desire are reignited because your presence is no longer a reflection of her behavior, but a manifestation of your own power. Men often fear this approach because it feels passive. They think doing nothing is surrender, but in truth, strategic silence, emotional grounding, and non-reactivity are not passive. They are mastery. They are control. They are power. And power, more than any chase, draws respect. Power, more than any effort, rekindles emotional connection. Power, more than desperation, commands attention and restores balance. So if you take one thing from this, let it be this: chasing does not reclaim attention. Begging does not restore loyalty. Over-explaining does not fix emotional drift. Emotional withdrawal is not reversed by desperation. It is reversed by awareness, dignity, and presence. Learn to step back. Learn to hold your value. Learn to create the space for her to feel the weight of your absence. And in that space lies the possibility of renewed attraction, respect, and connection, or the clarity to walk away with strength and dignity intact. Because the harsh truth is this: when a man chases, he loses more than attention. He loses respect. He loses attraction. He loses power. And once lost, these things are nearly impossible to regain. Awareness and presence, not chasing, are the only true antidotes to emotional drift. Remember this: a woman never returns to a man who has already given up his dignity in her presence. She notices desperation before love. She senses weakness before loyalty. And she feels power before attraction. Stop chasing. Hold your value. Observe with clarity. The rest will follow. Respect is the foundation of attraction, and without it, no relationship can survive. Many men believe that love alone will keep a woman invested, but the truth is harsher. Women respect men first, and love follows. Once respect is gone, attention, loyalty, and attraction begin to crumble. No matter how much effort, time, or energy a man puts into the relationship. This is why boundaries, emotional strength, and personal value are far more important than chasing, pleading, or trying to control outcomes. A man who maintains his self-respect automatically commands emotional authority, while a man who compromises it unintentionally accelerates the emotional drift he fears most. Most men do not understand the connection between self-respect and attraction. They confuse kindness with weakness, attention with loyalty, and patience with submission. They believe that by tolerating emotional withdrawal, apologizing excessively, or doing more than their value deserves, they are proving themselves worthy. But what they are really proving is the opposite: that their self-worth depends on external validation, that their emotions are dictated by her actions, and that their power in the relationship is conditional. Women feel this instinctively. They notice emotional weakness faster than words or actions can communicate it. And when they notice it, attraction fades. Respect is gone. And once respect fades, the relationship is on a slow, invisible decline. A woman's attraction is tied to the perception of strength, stability, and presence. She does not want a man who mirrors her moods, reacts to her withdrawal, or sacrifices his dignity for her attention. She wants a man who holds his center, who maintains his energy, and who exudes consistency in the face of subtle emotional shifts. When a man loses respect for himself in an attempt to regain hers, he signals that his value is negotiable, and negotiable value is rarely respected. On the other hand, a man who maintains his dignity, sets boundaries, and demonstrates self-respect, even in the face of her subtle withdrawal, commands attention, curiosity, and emotional engagement. He becomes the man she cannot replace, not because of material wealth, charm, or effort, but because of the magnetic strength of his presence. This is why awareness of her emotional state is only half the battle. The other half is how you respond. A woman tests boundaries unconsciously, and the way a man reacts determines whether those boundaries expand or contract. Begging, chasing, or panicking compresses boundaries and accelerates emotional drift. Holding space, observing, and maintaining self-respect expands boundaries and restores attraction. Women are drawn to men who reflect stability and strength rather than neediness and fear. Emotional presence is more compelling than physical proximity. Self-respect is more magnetic than attention, and understanding this distinction is the difference between losing a woman and becoming irreplaceable in her mind and heart. Many men fail to realize that respect is not static. It must be continuously earned and preserved. It is demonstrated through actions, consistency, and energy, not through words or promises alone. A man who respects himself does not tolerate disrespect. He does not bend to every emotional shift. He does not compromise his values to hold her attention. Instead, he maintains a standard of conduct that reflects his worth. A woman notices this instinctively. She may not articulate it, but her emotions respond. Her mind registers the difference between a man who commands respect and a man who offers it only when provoked. And once that perception is established, her emotional investment follows naturally. Boundaries are a crucial part of respect. Setting boundaries is not about controlling her behavior or limiting her freedom. It is about demonstrating that your value is non-negotiable. It is about showing that your emotions, energy, and attention are earned through engagement and mutual respect. When a man allows emotional withdrawal without maintaining boundaries, he signals that she can manipulate his attention with silence or calm words. When he maintains boundaries, he signals that his presence is intentional, valuable, and not dependent on her mood or behavior. This distinction creates a psychological tension that reignites curiosity, desire, and respect. Respect also requires men to confront uncomfortable truths. A woman may begin emotionally drifting, she may test boundaries, or she may quietly invest elsewhere. Recognizing these signs is essential. Ignoring them, rationalizing them, or pretending they do not exist erodes self-respect. Men who confront reality, who observe the emotional landscape without denial, retain power. They make conscious choices about how to respond, whether to restore connection or protect themselves. Denial is weakness, awareness is power, and women sense the difference instinctively. The most critical insight is that respect is contagious. A man who respects himself and maintains his value evokes respect in others, including women. He does not demand loyalty, he inspires it. He does not beg for attention, he commands it. Women respond to men who hold themselves to a standard, who demonstrate consistency, and who refuse to compromise their dignity for emotional reassurance. Chasing, over-explaining, or tolerating disrespect destroys this dynamic. Maintaining boundaries, staying grounded, and preserving self-respect restores it. The choice is always in your hands. Another subtle but powerful truth is that respect fuels attraction more than effort ever can. A man can work tirelessly, spend money, and show attention, but if he does so from a place of desperation rather than value, it becomes unattractive. Desperation signals that his presence is conditional. Value signals that his presence is magnetic. Women are naturally drawn to magnetic energy, not conditional attention. Once respect is lost, effort becomes meaningless. Once self-worth is compromised, no amount of apology or attention can rebuild attraction, and yet most men ignore this principle until it is too late. Understanding the connection between respect and attraction is not just theoretical. It has practical consequences. When a woman begins emotionally drifting, the man who maintains self-respect does not chase. He does not react impulsively. He does not overcompensate. He observes, reflects, and acts from a position of power. This behavior restores balance. It reminds her of his value. It makes her consider her own behavior. It forces her to confront the possibility that she may be losing something essential. And it shifts the dynamic from her controlling attention to him commanding presence. Respect is the currency of emotional influence, and maintaining it is the only way to reclaim or preserve connection. Finally, a man who understands respect recognizes that emotional departure cannot always be reversed. Sometimes, maintaining boundaries and self-respect does not bring her back, but it preserves his dignity. It protects his energy. It ensures that he walks away not as a failure, but as someone aware, intentional, and aligned with his own value. Many men would prefer to chase and lose both her and their dignity. The strongest men, however, preserve respect, understanding that attraction, connection, and emotional influence are rooted in presence and value, not desperation. So, as we bring this insight to a close, remember this: respect is not optional, it is essential. It is the invisible force that maintains attraction, loyalty, and emotional investment. Without it, love fades, attention drifts, and emotional departure accelerates. With it, boundaries are honored, presence is magnetic, and connection is preserved. And above all, respect begins with yourself. When you hold your value, maintain your standards, and refuse to compromise your dignity, you not only command attention, you reclaim power. Never forget this: a woman cannot respect a man who has already lost respect for himself. She cannot remain invested in someone who tolerates emotional withdrawal without awareness. She cannot feel attraction for a man who chases, pleads, or begs. But she will notice, admire, and invest in a man who holds his value, commands his energy, and maintains unwavering self-respect. Power, dignity, and awareness are your weapons. Respect is your currency. And the moment you understand this, you are no longer at risk of being silently replaced. You are no longer vulnerable to emotional drift. You are the man she cannot ignore. And that is the ultimate truth of attraction.